has a lot of commentary on loss, love, loneliness, and even though it was published possibly in 2017 or earlier, it's still super topical today. I just found the book really isolating, and granted, I was house sitting up on a hill with my only companion being a cat. He rejects her, and one of the reasons why he does this is because he has lots of fat-phobic views of her. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra, the TBR Zero, and I hope to one day become a TBR hero by eliminating every single book off of my TBR shelves. It's a long road. I am nowhere near finished, but I believe in myself. Today though, what I want to focus on are books that are potentially on your TBR backlist. I have been doing a series called Dust It or Bust It, in which I give you 5 titles that either share a similar theme, author, or potentially a setting, and I let you know if it's a dust situation, which means you should be dusting that book off, read it right away, what are you waiting for, or it's a bust situation. In my opinion, I didn't really find it great, maybe I didn't regret it, but I don't think it should be a priority on your TBR list, and you can take that opinion however you'd like. But today I have 5 books, and they have all been authored by Haruki Murakami. He is a Japanese writer who has pretty much become prolific. The first book that I'll be talking about is Men Without Women. This is a short story collection. There are 7 stories within the book, and as to be expected from the title, many or most of our protagonists are men, but they are often placed in situations where they have to interact with women or reflect on their past relationships with women. I am just in awe of how profound Murakami can be, and this is probably the most realist work that I've read by him. He usually dips his toes in speculative fiction, science fiction, and the like, but this felt very real, and it was poignant and thoughtful and reflective, and maybe it just goes to show you that Murakami later in life, he is just thinking about more serious work. Not that the other books aren't serious either that he's written, but this one just really hit me hard, and it actually was the first book that I ever read by him. I know that it's his most recent collection, maybe his most recent publication, but I really loved it. I found it thoughtful, and I was obsessed with the women that were mentioned in these pages. I think that it has a lot of commentary on loss, love, loneliness, and even though it was published possibly in 2017 or earlier, it's still super topical today. So if you can't tell by the way I'm talking about this, I think you need to dust this off, read it immediately if it's already on your shelves, and if you haven't read anything by him before, don't be nervous about having this be your first experience, because it was mine, and obviously I continue to read more of him after this. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about are actually a part of a series, and they are A Wild Sheep Chase and Dance, Dance, Dance. Yes, the titles are brilliant, and so are their covers. I absolutely adore this series, but I have to give a disclaimer. I accidentally read them out of order. I thought that this was a duology, so I read A Wild Sheep Chase and then Dance, 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 thinking I had completed something. However, I was later told that I was mistaken, and the real first book is Pinball, 1973. I am so upset that I didn't read the first book, but I guess there's something to say about the fact that I had no idea that I was missing any of the action, but I do have to go back and read book 1. I fully intend to, so it's important that you know at home that if you have this one on your shelf, read it first. To give some information about this series, it's known as the Rat series. That's because our unnamed narrator has a friend that he only refers to as the Rat, and his relationship with this man ends up getting him into very obscure, strange situations that lead into speculation and magical realism and fantasy and science fiction all put together. It's just one big tangled knot. And just to give you an example from the books that I've actually read, for A Wild Sheep Chase, the main plot point is that our narrator is forced to go find this mysterious mutant sheep up in the northern parts of Japan, and this sheep has a strange star on its back. Apparently, you've been seeing photos of it throughout history, and this strange figure is demanding our narrator to go find it. And of course, this mystery is wrapped up with the rat somehow, if I understand correctly, but who knows at this point. And Dance 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 is very similar, where our narrator is mixed up in some strange, wild, unimaginable, and unexplainable events. That's all I can say. But I absolutely adore it. It's perfect. It's genuinely perfect for anyone who loves speculative fiction and anything that's surreal and super dry humor. Then this is definitely for you. And yes, it's very different from Men Without Women. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But if you have it and you're really interested in what I'm saying, then yeah, read this rat series. Highly recommend it. Dust it off right now. The next book that I'll be talking about is Norwegian Wood. If anyone knows anything about Murakami, has heard of one title, has read one title, typically it is Norwegian Wood. I don't know why I'm an outlier, but it ended up being the fourth book I read by him, and my opinions also seem to be in the minority regarding this book. But to give you a little information about it, our main character, he's in college. Some reviewers and critics of Murakami assume that there is some semi-biographical information going on, but just so you know, it is during his college years. Our main character, he meets a young woman and they begin to have a romantic relationship, but this woman ends up having a lot of mental illness and just mental health problems, and so she goes off to this secluded health center in the woods, or at least in a distant area away from city life, and she has to figure out how to deal with her own mental issues. While she's doing that, our main character, he's continuing his life as a college student, but he's also beginning to feel this emptiness, loneliness within him as well. And I found myself in a very unique situation. Maybe I was reading it the wrong time, but I really didn't enjoy the book very much. I think that it was impacting my own feelings of emptiness and loneliness at the time. I just found the book really isolating, and granted, I was house sitting up on a hill with my only companion being a cat. So I don't know if I would recommend it for all audiences, to be honest. I also found the narrative to be quite slow and just oppressive in the way that it was making me feel emotionally. I just didn't think that this book was healthy for some people and potentially just needs trigger warnings. If you disagree with me and you find this book brilliant and profound and amazing, then I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments so we can have a discussion. For me though, it's a bust. The fifth and final book that we'll be talking about is Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. Yes, another amazing title. So for this one though, we are having fantastical old world mixing with science fiction. It's crazy. So it's a dual narrative. One of the storylines that we follow is a near future high-tech society, and it is also black market tech, if I'm remembering correctly. We have gangsters who are destroying people's apartments trying to find certain information. There's a chase going on. High stakes, baby. High stakes. So for the other narrative though, it's almost like an old world village surrounded by a stone wall, and the characters are almost 2D but also mysteriously purposefully aloof. The themes in this book focus on memory and identity and just simply trying to figure out a mystery before it's too late. I definitely think that people who are fans of Inception, the movie, would adore this, and anyone who is definitely into the science fiction vibes that go along with memory and memory tech and stuff. Crazy. It is important to give a disclaimer, however, that in this book and many of Murakami's works, if we're going to genuinely be honest, even those hardcore Murakami fans, that he is sexist and objectifies women often in his pages. Now, with Men Without Women, it's a newer title. I think that he was a bit more forward, progressive thinking in those stories, if I remember correctly. But with his earlier works, There are definitely many moments that would make anyone uncomfortable reading it because of the way he depicts his women. With Hard-Boiled Wonderland and The End of the World, there is a young woman protagonist, and she is forward in her sexual desires for our main character, but he rejects her, and one of the reasons why he does this is because he has lots of fat-phobic views of her, because she does tend to be larger, and she's not of that stereotypical, idealized thinness that tends to be projected in Japanese culture, and that's not the only culture that has it. Most of the world does, including the United States. So it is important to know that if that's a content warning that you absolutely refuse to read a book for, then don't read this book. I fully support that. I don't care how brilliant a book is, if an author is behaving in a way that suggests they don't believe in human equality, human worth at any level, then they're not worth reading. So I do think that's important to note. The book isn't worth it if it's going to cause any type of emotional or mental harm to you or to others. And that's what I have to say about it. So there we are. And those are my 5 titles on Haruki Murakami that may possibly be on your own TBR backlist. If you've read any of these books and you have similar feelings or completely different feelings than me, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts, especially since my opinion isn't the only one that exists in this world. And if you ended up getting to the end of the video and you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a like, consider subscribing and ringing that bell, and checking out the other TBR backlist videos that I've already posted. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a great one. Until next time, bye!